Same great show. Register online for $5 off admission at iowaagexpo.com. Sponsored in part by Farm Credit Services of America and Ag Direct.
This season, win the battle against weeds in your soybean fields with Fierce Easy herbicide from Valent USA. With 2 effective modes of action, Fierce Easy delivers up to 8 weeks of broad spectrum, residual control of tough and resistant broadleaves and grasses. Plus, its liquid formulation and low use rate makes it easy for mixing and loading. Give your soybeans a strong, clean start with the powerful pre-emergent control of Fierce Easy from Valent USA. Ask your local retailer or visit valent.com/fierceez to learn more. Always read and follow label instructions.
It's Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
All right, it's 2:49 AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. City Manager David Feerick will be here at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Keith Dinklaw should be here at 3 o'clock this afternoon, County Supervisor Dinklaw. Tomorrow, I'll talk with Jenna Lynch. Now, you don't know that name, but Jenna is the niece of a well-known Kossuth County attorney, Scott Buchanan, and she is a student now in San Diego. I forgot which college she goes to down there. I don't think it's the University of California at San Diego, but anyway, it'll be a great pleasure to talk to this very educated and very sharp young woman about climate change. And I'll tell you right now why there's trouble accepting climate change. That's kind of, and I've talked with Jenna Lynch very briefly about where she wanted to go with this. And yeah, in their her professor and the class's professor have sent these young students on a mission to find out why people have trouble accepting the scientific fact of climate change. Let me repeat that so you're really tuned into what I'm saying here. The professor wanted his students to find an interview subject and ask that subject, assuming the subject is a climate change denier, of course, ask the interview subject why they cannot accept the scientific fact of climate change. Well, climate change has been politicized. If you want to go back far enough, and I could go back farther than this, but in 1965, there was a report came out by a lot of respected scientists, top men in their field, who told us that cigarette smoking would not cause cancer. It turned out these objective scientists were paid by the tobacco companies to lie, because these scientists knew that there were problems with smoking tobacco. There was every indication that it caused cancer. As a matter of fact, in the early 50s, there was a cancer scare. In other words, a lot of cigarette smokers were getting cancer and dying. So the cigarette companies swung into action and started coming up with public relations programs like the one I just told you about. I mean, this one didn't come along until 65. But in the early 50s, there was real concern that cigarette smoking caused cancer. And again, the tobacco companies fought that idea hard. So when we talk about scientists, we have to know that they're honest. And that's impossible to know. Because from my perspective, climate change is about costing guys like me jobs. Ordinary, average working people. And you know the contempt that Joe Biden has for white men. It sounds a little odd, doesn't it? But he practically bristles with contempt at the idea that white men aren't evil, that they're, there's implicit bias, there's overt racism, institutional racism, structural racism, and Joe is going to strike it down because he's opposed to white men, I guess. I don't know. It's a very confusing time where a pathetic old man like Joe Biden, and this is how he's going to spend the last years of his illustrious life, really. This is how he's going to spend the last years of his life, coming up with silly arguments like this. So climate change means reduced wages and job opportunities. Absolutely. Now, David Osterberg is on here all the time. and he's talking about green jobs. Where are these green jobs? Where are these green jobs? I mean, that pay $60,000, $70,000 a year. How long do you have to wait to get a green job? Does a 45-year-old man who just lost his job, do they take off a couple of years and go to school to learn how to work on windmills or solar panel farms? And then once this wind energy is installed or solar energy is installed, how many people actually will work there? Probably not very many. The point being is that I get real suspicious when somebody starts talking about green jobs, because what they're saying is, just trust us. Just trust us. But you know that they're kind of lying there. Not kind of lying. If we trust them, we'll be out of work for a couple of years, 3 years maybe. Or even if we decide if we can go to school or to some sort of school so we can be trained, how do we pay for it? How do we pay our bills in the interim? They kind of forget that. They kind of forget that, which surprises me. It shouldn't, but it does. So I look forward to talking with Jenna tomorrow. And that's probably the line that I will pursue with her, is that science or scientists, science can be trusted, but scientists can't. Okay? This is AM 1400 KBFD, the voice for doubt.
Some livestock operators, including large dairy farms, have been changing how they handle manure, turning it into